Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We certainly appreciate your taking your time to listen to a great workshop we have this morning. I'm Maria Antuna, Executive Vice President of Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're going to be joining with us Romeo Chico, I'm so sorry, Romeo. And at this time, I would like to introduce him. Romeo will cover the benefits today available to businesses under the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, as well as the latest American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 that was just put into law in March. Topics covered will include the latest on PPP forgiveness, grants for nonprofits, grants for restaurants, taking advantage of the employee retention credit, where up to $33,000 per employee is now available to affect businesses, and much more. Romeo Chico, CPA, is the founder of CEO of Paymaster Payroll Service, headquartered here in Palm Beach County. He started Paymaster over 26 years ago, and his company provides payroll processing, time and attendance, and human resource services to businesses from one employee to thousands. Romeo, we welcome you.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you to Mary Lou and the Central Palm Beach Chamber for this opportunity. So, yeah, you're a little tongue-tied with that Consolidated Appropriations Act and all these other acts, and they're even more difficult to read than just saying the name of the title there. So I'm going to try to break it all down, make it easy to understand, and point out some of the major benefits in these acts. So let me share my screen here. There we go. All right, so this is what I'm going to talk about is really the compilation of multiple acts, but quite a bit has come up through these last two, the Consolidated Appropriations signed in December by President Trump, and then the American Rescue Plan Act signed just last month by President Biden. Do want to start out, this is on the PPP forgiveness front. The forgiveness application process opened in the fall of 2020. And if anyone had asked me about it, I would have said to not file for forgiveness. There's no rush. There's no trophy for being first. Just relax and wait. And I would have said that up until a couple of months ago as well. I think right now is the time you should be looking into filing for forgiveness on your first round. A lot of changes have been made in these last two acts. And the biggest one is that loans less than $150,000 are basically what I've been calling a sign and drive. You sign a paper saying you did not commit fraud and you use the funds appropriately, and the loan is forgiven. So it is a very easy process. I'm going to show you kind of what the application looks like if you're under 150. Of course, your bank will put this into a digital format, but this is the application. Very simple, just some basic numbers. And you want to, here the forgiven amount should be the total of your loan amount. Also on the PPP news front, it was set to expire on March 31st, and it was just extended until May 31st to allow more time. And the news to share here is in the past month or so, many of the qualification rules and the amounts calculated have changed. So many nonprofits were not eligible for the first draw. Sole proprietors, I've watched news stories about sole proprietors getting like literally $10 or $500. Those calculations have changed. So if you did not get a large amount on the first round, or if you are not eligible, as certain nonprofits were not eligible, now is the time to revisit, check in with your bank. There's a couple of qualifications, that your business had to have declined in revenue in any quarter last year. But this may be an opportunity to get some additional funds. The amount is the same unless you fall under the hospitality or food and beverage industry. And for those businesses, they're harder hit. They're eligible for 3.5 times. This next piece, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA, has been around since last March, and every act keeps modifying and changing this, and in essence extending it. Where we are at today is that sick and family leave, I'll call it federal paid sick and family leave, is extended through September 30th. Employers are not mandated to offer this as we were back in 2020. You were required, otherwise you could fall under a minimum wage violation. But it's optional for you to offer now. And as I say here, why not? The government is going to give you the money to pay your employees for leave in connection with coronavirus. So if it's a benefit you can provide your employees at no cost to you, I say why not do it. The ARP Act, signed last month, gave employees a new set of 2 weeks available under this leave. And the bigger piece is at the bottom here, is that leave is now allowed for immunizations or time off for recovery of adverse side effects. So we hear a lot about people, sometimes on the first shot, but in many cases the second shot, and they're wiped out. They're taking a day off from work, or worse, multiple days. So the employee can enjoy the comfort of recovering from those side effects and be paid for that time off and not affect any sort of other paid leave that they may have. As far as proof, you do not need to get proof of immunization or get their card. Congress has always said they wanted to make this leave as easy as possible for employees to get. So they never had to prove that they were ill or quarantined. So that same thing carries on to this. They don't need to provide you with any proof, but you should ask them. They should provide you something in writing. At the end of the slide, I have my email address listed. So if you do have a need for a form, we have created a template form that you can use to give your employees to request this time off. Right. There are 2 grants that have come as these recent acts. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund, there is $26.8 billion that is made available to restaurants. And I had to read this and look at it a couple of times just because I was a little in disbelief about how much. And basically, if you are a restaurant or bar, any type of business that touches food or drink, so food trucks, caterers, any of those types of businesses, the government is going to give you your 2019 total revenue minus your 2020 revenue. So they're trying to make you whole for the business you lost in 2020, minus PPP loans. So the government is saying, hey, we already gave you some money, so we're going to count that. And if that turns out to be a positive number, you will go to the SBA. This process is not opened as of yet. We're expecting it to be soon, but we're not quite sure when. If you go to sba.gov, right on the homepage, there's a link for COVID-19 relief, and we'll talk about where the page you will go to. But this is huge for restaurants and bars. You know, hopefully you can hang in there and, until these funds become available. You can use the funds once you receive them for anything, just about anything you want to operate your business. And you just have to spend the money by the end of the year. So payroll, rent, utilities, insurance, food costs, liquor costs. They just want you to operate your business and not take the money and run, in essence. This is a second grant, and this one has been thrown around in Congress for the most of 2020. And it was originally called Save Our Stages. It was a separate act. So that's why I put up there the SOS. It all came into the Consolidated Appropriations Act that, as I list here at the top, these types of businesses were not only hard hit, they were shuttered. They could not open live theater, movie theaters, performing arts, museums. They were just closed. So it's a little better than the restaurants and bars. They don't care what you made in 2020 under this grant. You know, you just need to have a 25% reduction in revenue, which most of these businesses suffered at least that. And what is available is 45% of the revenue you made in 2019, period. No reductions of anything. It's 45% of your revenue, up to $10 million. And similar to the restaurant and bars, you can use that money for pretty much anything to operate your business and continue to operate that business. This process did open up at the SBA on April 8th. SBA had some significant problems. They opened it, and within a short time, the website was suffering some issues with the contractor. They shut it down. I don't believe they have opened it up again. I was on it the other day, and it still looked like it was shut down. So if this is you, if you're under one of these business categories, that's something you need to be looking out for now, because that is going to open back up here very, very soon. Kind of one last little credit out there. And this is new. This is going to get a lot of press. I've seen a lot of news articles about this. And this is really a benefit to the separated employees. If you involuntarily laid off an employee, so what is involuntary separation? It's you have a reduction in business, you don't need the staff, you are laying them off. What doesn't count is if the employee quit, if the employee was fired for cause, employee retired, those are not involuntary. So if the employee involuntarily separated, they do not have to, they can continue their health insurance coverage with your company between now, April 1st and September 30th, and not pay you for it. Instead, they would stay on your group plan. You pay for the insurance. And then, as I state on the last line here, you will receive a tax credit on your 941 return for the amount of that premium, plus a 2% administrative fee. The catch here is that anyone who's eligible for COBRA between April 1st and September 30th, and because with COBRA, an employee is eligible for 18 months after they are separated, you could have involuntarily terminated someone in November 2019, prior to the pandemic. That employee needs to receive a notice that they're eligible for free insurance. If they are still without a job and without insurance, they can now jump back onto your insurance plan and have that insurance paid for. Department of Labor said they were going to come out with this notice that you'll need to provide separated employees or involuntarily separated employees. I have not seen that come out yet, so that should come out relatively soon. But I think you may find employees coming back to you that you haven't seen for some time saying, hey, I'm here for my free insurance. All right, so this is, I'm going to spend a significant amount of time on this. It is the employee retention tax credit. And I've said this a few times. I think that is a horrible description for what this is. It's confusing. It's really not what it is. But we'll talk about that in a moment. What's important is these two qualifications. If your business meets one of these two qualifications, you are eligible for possibly up to $33,000 per employee. So if you have just 10 employees in your business, it is possible you could get $330,000. And that is a huge amount. So let's go into more detail on these two reasons. The full or partial suspension, it is by any government order, federal, state, county, city, local. If the government came in with an order that says you cannot operate your business in the same capacity you could have pre-pandemic, you are full or partially suspended. The best example I can show out there is what has happened to restaurants. So we know for a period of time, we were a stay-at-home order. Many businesses had to close. And then for restaurants, they were able to open outside, takeout, delivery. They were able to open inside at 25%. And then at some point, they moved to 50% up through about September 25th in Palm Beach County. So for that period of time, between March 18th, I believe it was, in our county order, until we hit phase 3, September 25th, restaurants were fully or partially suspended. So 100% they qualify for this. I put a couple of footnotes at the bottom here. Unfortunately, if your business was suspended, but employees can work from home, that would not qualify you for this. You could still qualify under the reduction of revenue. We'll talk about that. Another footnote is that your business may not have been directly suspended. Your supplier could have been suspended, a major supplier. So if you sell widgets and the widget factory is in California and California shut down, the factory shut down, and you can't receive that product, even though you could open, you can sell, maybe you even sell online, but you can't get that product, you are considered partially suspended. So you have to really look at the big picture on this and not just think that it's your business was shut down. With the multiple acts that are out there that all have a hand in this, every act has touched this employee retention credit. And that leads to some of this confusion. There are different rules for different years, so I'm going to try to cover some of that here. For 2020, so in order to get this credit for 2020, this came into effect on March 13th. That's when the CARES Act took effect. Your business must have had 100 or less full-time employees in 2019. I find a lot of confusion with just that statement. We have a hotel in Miami. They have about 145 employees, and they thought for certain they did not qualify for this. They were exploring the ability to take the credit this year. And when we looked at it and looked at their employees, we found that they had under 100 full-time. So if you have a part-time person, they work 25 hours a week, that person does not count in that count towards 100. So it's only full-time people. Your business must have been suspended. So we talked about that, what a suspension is. Or your revenue must have gone down by 50%. And revenue is your total gross receipts, your sales of your entire operation. 50% is fairly steep, but this is any quarter in 2020. So for many companies, it was that second quarter, April, May, June. Maybe they're an essential business and they weren't shut down, but business suffered and they had a drop in revenue. The look back year is 2019. And during that qualified period, either suspension or revenue down, the amount available to the business is 50% of the wages paid to each employee, up to $5,000. So if we look at that 10 employee scenario, you have 10 people. If they're each paid, $10,000 within that period of time, that's a $50,000 refund. And the way this works, it is filed on the 941 tax return. Yes, for 2020, your returns are all filed. This is filed on an amended return. So amended returns filed, the IRS will send a check. For 2021, the Congress has loosened up the conditions in order to qualify. Now, larger business can qualify. You just need to have 500 or less, again, full-time employees. So, your business could have 900 people, and then maybe you're a McDonald's or a fast food restaurant, and the majority of those employees are part-time. You could quite possibly meet this 500. The look back is still 2019. The other condition, your business was suspended, or gross receipts must be down by only 20% in a calendar quarter, compared to the same quarter in 2019. So this is looking back to that pre-pandemic revenue. One question I usually get is, here we are, first quarter 2021, and I started my business in the fourth quarter 2019. That's fine. You're still eligible. The IRS states that you look back at your first quarter in business. So you would compare this first quarter 2021 to the fourth quarter 2019, or whatever that first quarter in business was. The refundable amount is 70% of wages up to $7,000 per employee per quarter. So this is in effect for all 4 quarters of this year. So if your business is floating around 25, 22% reduction in revenue, you are going to be eligible and receive up to $7,000 for every employee for every quarter. I saw an article in Forbes last month that talked about the employee retention credit. It is probably the only publication I've seen that had an article regarding the ERC. And it talked about planning. There is nothing in the tax code that says you cannot do proper tax planning. If you have a tax accountant, they're going to tell you to plan and forecast. And what I mean by that is, you can't plan a suspension. That's going to be governed by the government. But the 20% drop, let's say you're floating right around that 20% number, and you're now approaching the end of the quarter. And I had this conversation with a golf club. Spoke to them. They had about 2 weeks left till the end of the quarter. I reached out. I said, you know, how is it looking? We know you qualified last quarter. And they said, well, we're going to be close. My suggestions were, and this may baffle some people, but I said, give everything away. Don't charge for golf course. And customers come into your restaurant, surprise them with a comp check. Just say it's on the house. And you are basically tax planning. You're keeping your revenue at least a 20% reduction. And what I had estimated for this particular golf course was a $490,000 credit. So again, it's a little hard to say, all right, give everything away for the last week of the quarter. But let's say you gave away $50,000 of food or golf course rental or whatever other product that they may sell. And the offset is, I met the 20% reduction. Now I'm going to get $490,000 back in tax credit. That is proper tax planning. They would be up. Oops, one too many. There are several exclusions from the ERC, so it does get a little bit complicated in the calculation. And I put a lot of does not include on here. So by nature of it, the description is employee retention tax credit. So if you paid severance wages to your employees, well, that you didn't retain the person, so you can't count severance wages. The biggest confusion is around the PPP. And I get a lot of pushback from CPAs. We have companies that will ask us about this. We present to them, and then I get feedback that their CPA said, "Well, I'm not eligible because I got a PPP loan." That is 100% not true. The initial CARES Act made that requirement. The initial CARES Act said you can do PPP or ERC. But back when the CARES Act came out, if we all recall, that we're going to get over the pandemic in 15 days, right? We had the 15 days to stop the spread, and then it went to 30 days to stop the spread. They had a very short-term vision on how long this was going to last. So the government didn't want to give two huge benefits. They said PPP or ERC. As we see a year later, so that's where the Consolidated Appropriations Act came in December and said, all right, we realize this went on a little longer, so let's let people take both retroactively. But the condition is they can't overlap. And what that means is, again, I'll use the case of a restaurant. Restaurant in Palm Beach County, you were suspended around March 18th through September 25th. The earliest I think you could have gotten a PPP loan if you were first out the gates was probably sometime around mid-April. So let's say April 18th. Well, that means from March 18th until April 17th, that was not PPP money you used to pay those employees. So you have about a month of eligible wages towards this ERC. Then you get your PPP money on April 18th. Even if you go the full, let's say you go 10 weeks with that money or 12 weeks with that money, you go 3 months. So May, June, July, and let's say the PPP money runs out in August. Well, great, PPP is gone. So now you pick up and you count those wages towards ERC for September, the end of August, September through September 25th. So it is a little bit of a dance between these two CARES Act benefits, but it is a great benefit as you see. There are some other things that do not qualify you, or I should say qualify wages. So We talked a few slides earlier about the family's first leave. That is leave that the government is giving you money to pay your employees. So again, that is not eligible wages towards the ERC because it wasn't your money that you paid them with. So we exclude some of these things. There's an exclusion, any relative of a 50% or more owner, so they don't want businesses who now see that they're eligible for this to hire on their entire family and start paying their family wages in order to take 70% of a credit from the IRS. So there's that limitation. And a couple of other exclusions: self-employed or household employers. They're not seen as necessarily having employees. So that is the conclusion of my formal presentation. I'm open to any sort of questions that anyone may have out here. I know this is some complicated topics. I have my blog up there, blog.paymaster.com. I write articles twice a month that I post out there, as well as my email, and I'm happy to answer any questions, whether you're a client or a Paymaster or not. I've said this in other presentations, we're all here in Palm Beach County. We support each other businesses, whether we directly help or indirectly. So I'm here to support our community.
Romeo, it's Maria. Just a quick
Hi.
question for you.
Yes.
So obviously, if anyone's interested, we encourage them to contact you. What is the process of it all? I saw the application when you first came on. What's time frame? What's required?
Sure. So for the employee retention credit, at this point, it is filing an amended return for the 941 for last year.
Mm-hmm.
The IRS timeframe on filing an amended return is 3 years. So there's no rush on this. You can sit here and say, you know what, I'm going to think about it some more, and wait, and then file. So I think we're going to be finding companies that didn't know they were eligible for this literally 3 years from now, and finding unclaimed money that they didn't know they have. So.
Wonderful. Well, it looks like everyone's okay, and hopefully everyone really, really appreciated. This was very good information, and I know a lot of this is not being circulated around with the businesses, so it's very important. And we certainly hope that people will reach out to you and you can assist them, because they're really good opportunities here with your presentation of the information. And I can tell you just from experience, there's a couple of businesses that I know can benefit. So I'm going to reach out to them and make sure that we're not able to be on today. Make sure they reach out to you, and hopefully you can help them.
Yes. Like I said, I'm happy to help everyone. I saw a question pop up.
Okay.
The application process for people who need insurance from layoff. So that is going back to this COBRA subsidy. So COBRA is required if you have 20 or more employees. When you separate an employee, you're supposed to allow them to stay on your insurance. They pay for that insurance. What this is the the former employee can stay on your insurance and not pay you for the insurance. Instead, you take it as a credit on your 941 return. There's no application process for that employee. They are to be provided with a notice. Again, Department of Labor is going to come out with a model notice. You are to give everyone who is involuntarily terminated, to advise them you're now eligible to come back to our insurance for free, starting now until September 30th. And then you put them back on your insurance. If you have a COBRA administrator, then I suspect your COBRA administrator would take care of this. They may need to find out from you who was involuntarily separated. So that's the, and if you want to call it the application process, but that is the process. All right, yeah, I don't see any other questions. So either I was very thorough and complete in talking about all of these topics, or everyone is just baffled as to all of this money that the government is giving out. Whichever it is, if you do have any questions that come to mind down the road, my email address is here, and like I said, I'm happy to answer whether you're.
Okay. And just one more question. Does this include the 501c6?
Yes.
Okay.
The employee retention credit does include the 501. It includes the 501s that were not eligible for the PPP. We saw many take advantage of this last April when this came out because they weren't eligible for PPP. So yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it appears you've answered all the questions, and we certainly appreciate your time today, Romeo.
Very welcome.
And we thank you for your presentation. So at this point, we will adjourn the workshop. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you
for being with us today.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.